They're not returning your calls. They're doing business with your competitors. Influence, persuasion, it's all there. If you're seeing people that are being more successful than you and you're wondering what's taking so long and you're working really hard and you think you're smarter than them, it's going to come back to persuasion, motivation, influence. It's one of the key elements to success.
Welcome, high-performing entrepreneurs and business owners. Do you suffer from shiny object syndrome? Do you often feel scattered and distracted, making it hard to implement your plan with all the ideas and strategies coming at you? Do you often wonder if you have the right goals and plan? Welcome to Extraordinary Focus with David Wood, where we help you achieve way more in less time. Get the laser focus you need so you can double your business, double your impact in the world, and be an even more extraordinary entrepreneur and human. Let's dive in and stay tuned at the end for your gift. Welcome, Focus Ninjas, to another episode of Extraordinary Focus. I'm quite excited about this because I want to know about how to have more influence in the world. I believe I'm a good person. I'm coming from a good place, and I want to influence people. It's my life. It's my living. And before I read the bio, let's get him out here and welcome Kurt Mortensen, who's going to tell us all about it.
Hey, great to be here, David.
Thanks, man. I like your energy. You know, I like that you're standing up. You seem like you're in your body. And so it's got me more motivated for this interview. Let me tell people how awesome you are. Kurt W. Mortensen is an international authority on charisma, human nature, and influence. Kurt has spent over 20 years researching persuasion and the motivational psychology and teaches on the university level. He is the author of Persuasion IQ, Laws of Charisma, and the best-selling book, Maximize Influence. And check this out. This makes me jealous. His books have been translated into 28 languages. Kurt, thanks so much for being here.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Sure, man. Let's dive straight into it. I think most of us want more charisma, but why? Why should we care about having more charisma?
Because everything you want in life's on the other side of persuasion and influence to get more yeses. I mean, you talk about doubling your time and everything, getting more yeses, being more persuasive, being more influential. And here's the key is a lot of people, well, let me just put it this way. The studies show that most people only have 3, 4, maybe 5 persuasion tools, okay? And there's over 100 out there. And as Maslow says, if the only tool in your toolbox is a hammer, you treat everyone like a nail. And when I tell people that, they say, well, if there's over 100 tools, what's the most important? And it's charisma, because when you're charismatic, people want to be influenced by you. They want to be persuaded by you. They want to do business with you. They want to be around you. They want to be influenced by you. And that's the key. When you're charismatic influence is easy.
So charisma is one of the key tools to have more influence. Describe what life is like if we don't master this. If we don't have charisma and we don't have influence, what bad things can happen? What does our life look like?
Let me ask your listeners this, those that are watching this. Have you ever met someone who wasn't that sharp, but they were making more money than you? That person that didn't deserve it got the promotion over you? Okay, that means that's an influence. They're not returning your calls. They're doing business with your competitors. Influence, persuasion, it's all there. If you're seeing people that are being more successful than you and you're wondering what's taking so long and you're working really hard and you think you're smarter than them, it's going to come back to persuasion, motivation, influence. It's one of the key elements to success. In fact, most CEOs have a sales and marketing background because this is a skill that at some point you have to master.
Wow. All right, so I'm starting, like, I already thought it was important, right? I was already converted, but now I'm seeing, like, if I just look back over my last week, I went to an audition for a Dracula play. I want to influence that director, right? I want to get chosen for the part. Then I went for another audition for a playback theater troupe, and I'd like to influence them because I'd like the choice as to whether or not I do that, you know, be part of that troupe. And I can see, like, when I wanted to get a celebrity to write the foreword to my book, that's about influence. When I want someone to promote my product on their email list, that's about influence. I wanted help for a housing loan recently. I got to influence people. And when someone gets on a call with me and they're considering working with me, I want to influence them to sign up with me so that I can help them and so I get paid. And then I want to influence them week after week after week after week so they change their behavior.
So I'm just starting to see, and I feel like we're just scratching the tip of the iceberg. Influence really seems like everything. If I don't have influence, I think I'm hearing you say opportunities are going to pass me by. I might not get that promotion. I'm not going to get as much money. I may not get that woman to marry me. The sky's the limit.
And that's the key. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. Everyone persuades for a living as parents, teachers, leaders, managers. And I'm passionate because I spent all this money on a college degree thinking, oh, I'm ready. And even more money on an advanced degree. But they didn't teach me the basic skills, the soft skills, the persuasion skills, the connecting skills. That's the key. That's why I'm so passionate about it, because I've always worked with entrepreneurs and, they go out and they try it out and like, it didn't work. I'm like, no, it didn't work for you. Look at these thousands of people. It worked for them. What was the missing ingredient? And these soft skills are the key to people's success.
Wow. Yeah, I imagine people like Bill Gates are good at influence. Richard Branson is good at influence, at getting people to do what he wants them to do. Doesn't influence have a negative connotation? Isn't this just another word for manipulation?
Some people do say that, where, well, that's manipulation. But the key factor here is I can teach you any persuasion tool. Like, let's take charisma, for example. When I was researching laws of charisma, there were charismatic leaders around the world that just changed lives, improved countries, just made a difference. And there's charismatic leaders that have destroyed people. It's like gravity. Is gravity good or bad? Well, depends if you're falling from a tree or walking. These are neutral skills. But I believe this with persuasion, as you sway people and help people persuade themselves. As business owners, as entrepreneurs, you have a moral and ethical obligation to persuade people to do business with them. Why? Because if you don't, someone else that's not going to take care of them, going to take their money and run, not give them what they want, someone's going to take their money. It might as well be you. You persuade them because you're going to take care of them. You're going to change them. You can help them. But if you don't, someone else will, and they're going to have a bad experience.
It sounds to me like it comes back to intent. If your intent is to manipulate someone into doing something that's not good for them, then it's an evil tool, right? Well, it's not the tool, but you're using it in a bad way. But if your intent is coming from a good place, you're like, hey, I think I want the hundred of you in my audience to stop smoking, and I'm going to do everything in my power to persuade, influence, and manipulate you to stop smoking. Then why not? Let's go ahead. Let's do it. How do we have more charisma?
Well, I agree with you. Intent is part of that, and being a win-win. And of course, getting the right tools. Anybody can be what I call high lactose or cheesy with their persuasion tools. The way you become more charismatic is to understand, and this is true around the world, your default setting as a human is you tend to persuade how you like to be persuaded. You tend to present how you like to be presented to, and that's wrong. If you learn how to persuade others, how they want to be persuaded, help them persuade themselves, now all of a sudden you'll be more charismatic. People always think they're going to resist. No, deep down, people want to be persuaded. They want to make more money. They want to be healthy. They want to quit smoking. They want to be persuaded. They just want someone they can trust, that's charismatic, that can persuade them, that can help them. Then the door's open to influence.
It reminds me of a friend of mine said once, if you can manipulate me into having a better time in life, you go straight ahead.
That's right. And it's a matter of words. If I had to manipulate a teenager to go to drug rehab, I wouldn't lose sleep over that. But when it's a win-win, like you mentioned, your intention's in the right place, persuasion, as Napoleon Hill said, is the magic ingredient.
Right. So how do I get more charismatic? I'm sold. I want to be more charismatic. I want to have more influence. What do I do?
Couple factors. One I mentioned is learn to persuade people how they want to be persuaded. Number one. Number two, and over 20 years of research all points to that up to 95% of persuasion and influence involves a subconscious trigger. You're like, okay, what's that? It's a feeling. When someone approaches you, within seconds, your caveman brain, I like them, I don't like them, I trust them, I don't trust them. And it's crazy. It could be how fast you're walking, how tall you are, your tone of voice, your gestures, your word choice, your smell. When people are near the smell of Cinnabon store, they're more likely to donate to charity. Most of persuasion is done below the radar. It's a feeling. I like them, I don't like them, I trust them, I don't trust them. We just like to be logical, vomit on people, data dump, not persuasive.
So my simple brain's a little lost here. I'm looking for some concrete tips that I can practice this week. I heard you say learn to persuade people how they want to be persuaded. What does that mean? How do I actually do that?
All right, let's talk about it. Just kind of in a simple manner. Let's say you're walking into someone's office and you want to be people person chit chat. They might not be that person. Just to kind of round off some numbers here, some research I've been doing. Half the people, when you walk into someone's office, you've never met them before, want to connect, want to chit chat. The other half want to get right down to business and find out that they can trust you and that you're credible. And so if you just think about that one thing, when you walk in that office, follow their lead. Just learn. You're so concerned about what to say next. Listen, if they say, hey, how's your day going? How's it been? Oh, the weather. We're chit-chatting. We're people skills. We're connecting. But if they say, how long's your company been in business? All right, we got to build some credibility. And here's the secret. You've got about 4 minutes in that conversation to build that credibility, to get them to trust you, to teach them something new, something different, something unique, a reason they should listen to you, what's in it for them. Then we can talk. We can still connect later on, but just that one little piece to veer in either direction can be very helpful, because if you start doing gushy chit chat people skill stuff and they're not that type of person, no connection, no influence.
Okay, great. So I got two things I think out of that. One, take their lead. You know, if they're being chit-chatty, if they're asking you how you're doing, if they're asking you, stuff, they're interested in you, then you can follow that, ask them about themselves. If that's not the case, like I just called a client thinking we had a coaching call, and he was like, no, it's next week. He seemed to be a little rushed. He didn't really seem like he wanted to chat right then. So I could have checked in. Do you have a minute to chat, or you got something you want to do? That's totally fine. What I chose to do is just, all right, great. Next week, noon, you got it. I'll talk to you then, right? So I think I got that. Take their lead, pick up on their cues, and then I'm also hearing drop in some credibility. Get some,
huge.
yeah, and which we did on this call. Before I started asking you questions, we told people, here's some great stuff about Kurt that shows you that he's an authority on this. If I'm going to give a speech, I want someone to give an intro that puts all that stuff up front. But if I go into someone's office and it's a sales meeting, yeah, maybe I'm going to look for some ways to just drop in the fact that I've been at this for a long time, that I know what I'm doing, so that they can go, oh, this guy's a real player in this. Just at my audition last night, I don't think I meant consciously to do this, but I did drop into one of my answers. I've done so much improv for so long, and now I want to work on this. That dropped in a little bit of credibility into the conversation. Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly. And that's the important lesson. It is okay, with trust being at an all-time low, to borrow credibility, to get an introduction, a recommendation, a referral, somebody to leave a voice message. They will always believe somebody else before they believe you. So it's okay. A, you can teach them something new. B, go ahead and borrow credibility, and people will resonate with you and they will trust you.
Oh, I like this. It's reminding me of, I did an interview with John Gray from Mars and Venus, and he said men in particular, they want to know what you've done. Mm-hmm. For them to trust you, they want to know that you've rocked it out, that you've crushed it. So he said for the men, he drops in that he's done this and done that and the bestseller and all of that. For the women, I think it was more about they want to know how much he loves his wife, or she's passed away now, loved his wife. That's what had them trust him. So I'm really enjoying this. And the referral thing, yeah, you're so right. For me to try and be on your podcast, or for you to be on my podcast, we could pitch each other cold, or we could go to someone who knows both of us and say, hey, would you make an introduction? You're
so simple,
pave the way.
It works.
Yeah.
Very few people do that. And that is the key. Borrow credibility. It's okay. If you're going to a situation, no credibility, borrow it. Please do. It is so simple.
I love it. Great. What else can we do? So we got this, take their lead, being receptive. We got drop in some credibility yourself, or get someone else to do it for you. What are another couple of tools we can use to increase our charisma? I want to be more charismatic. I want people to want to work with me, to want to be around me.
And charisma, a lot of it's going to be your inner charisma, feeling charismatic yourself, being able to persuade yourself. That's a big one. Borrowing credibility that we talked about. And of course, your presence, the way you walk into a room, the way you interact with people. Do people notice you? Your presence has got to be a critical thing. Whether you're on stage or meeting somebody one-to-one, your ability to connect with people, to build relationships is critical. And you're like, well, I have people skills. I'm like, well, do you? Because everyone, do you know that annoying person that you work with, that person that rubs you the wrong way? You know, the person that thinks they're funny, but they're not? That could be you. That is you. You're the annoying person. You don't even know it because you get along with people that are like you. Anybody can do that. But we live in a culture where you can only like people that look like you or dress like you or think like you. No, if you truly want to be an influential, charismatic leader, you've got to get along with every personality, every style, every culture. That ability to connect, to build rapport, to get people to like you opens the doors to influence and charisma and is a key factor to your success.
How do I persuade myself? How do I persuade? You mentioned persuading yourself. How do I persuade myself? And what's an example of where I'd want to persuade myself?
Getting up in the morning, talking to that prospect, making 100 phone calls a day, exercising, talking to that special someone, asking me how the day. It's all self-persuasion. Again, if you can't persuade yourself, you can't persuade other people. I would start. I mean, we would have to spend some time with it, but let's start here. The acronym is T, just like the drink TEA. Your thoughts control your emotions control your actions. So if your thoughts are negative, and what if, as you know, as I train public speakers, for example, so, what if they don't listen? What if I blow it? What if I can't do this? What if they walk out? Ding, ding, ding. That triggers emotions. And emotions are a mirror of your thoughts, which come across in your actions. If you want to be more charismatic, you got to focus more on the positive, visualize the success, number one. Number two, what's interesting, Dr. Cuddy's research from Harvard, who does the power poses, I know many of you have seen that TED Talk, she says the opposite is also true, that your actions can trigger different emotions, which can trigger different thoughts. So the way you walk in the room, doing the power poses, as she says, and you probably don't want to do that in public, but if you could walk into the room more confident, you can have better thoughts. Just that alone, that little piece will change the game for you.
Wow, I'm thinking now about yesterday. I needed to persuade myself to go to that audition. That it didn't take a lot, but I was nervous. It was an hour and a half improv audition. No lines to learn, just show up and do whatever they told me to do. I had to improvise a damn song. Someone was just making up music on the keyboards and I had to step out on stage and do a song. I had to persuade myself to go there. And today I got my list of things to do. I often need to persuade myself to, as you say, to get up at a certain time. I use an alarm to help myself persuade myself, and to do work instead of go and play video games. I need to persuade myself. So I like that one. You mentioned presence. Presence seems to be something that's often talked about and little understood. How would you define presence, and how can I be more present right now with you?
Well, there's two pieces of that: your presence as people perceive you, then being present. Of course, part of that is, treating the person like the most important person on the earth. Being able to not keep thinking about what you want to say next and thinking about what they want to say. So being present, but then of course your presence is a function of your thoughts, the function of you walk in the room, the function of those subconscious triggers that I talked about. I mean, the way you standing on a slight angle with someone's less confrontational. Having your shoulders squared up, good eye contact about 70% of the time gives you more presence. If you're on a stage, the way you share your eye contact in the room, the way you stay squared up with the audience, your gestures, being more open, not making fists, not folding your arms or doing what they call the fig leaf here, those type of things. So it could be a function of your gestures. It's a function of your voice. It's a function of the words you use. Those are the subconscious. I like this person feelings. And of course, being present, I am here to serve you. I am here to help solve your problem is a great start in the world of influence and charisma.
Well, a nugget that I want to draw out of what you just said was this idea of really putting your attention on the other person. So something I've noticed in doing my podcast interviews, it was subconscious. I didn't realize it. I was looking at my own image on the video to check how I was coming across and if I'm in the frame and like that. And I'm changing it now. I'm changing it now to put the camera closer to my eye level so it looks more like I'm looking at you, and I actually am looking at you. And as I put my attention on you and what you're saying, I notice you're standing up and you're energized, and then I feel impacted by that. So now there's actually true connection, or at least closer to it. And this is reminding me of acting. I think this is fascinating. I'm told when you're doing a cold reading and you got to read the lines, don't be looking at the script when someone's reading a line to you. Look at the person and actually feel them as they're speaking to you so you can see what your reaction is. And then you can look down and look at the script and read out your line with that reaction. And it seems to me we could do that in life too. In a business meeting, instead of me working out what I'm going to say next, I could really be focused on you. I could really be listening, and I could see, how does that impact me at all? And then come from that instead of my prepared thing. So you've excited me here about this concept of presence. And I can imagine that'd be way more charismatic to be around someone if you are actually with them and you're actually listening to them instead of coming from a prepared script. Now, I want to ask you, before I let you go, you've mentioned to me before this interview about the 5 C's of trust. And I want to know, what are they? I assume we've covered some already, but what are the 5 C's of trust?
So trust is the glue to this whole persuasion and influence process. And I'll just run through the 5 C's, give you an example of going to a dentist. Everybody wants a dentist that they can trust, right? That's so important. Let's say you move to a new area, your tooth hurts, you want to see a dentist, and you ask your first neighbor. The first C is character, integrity, honesty, and sincerity. And you go to your first neighbor, recommend a dentist. And they say, well, I know a great dentist, very competent. They know what they're doing, but they just don't have much character. You'll have to wait a few months because they're in jail for insurance fraud. Okay. You only need 1 filling to put in 2 and billing for 3, but the best fillings in the state, right? So if they're in jail, character, but then the other one was competence. We want people that have both character and competence, your knowledge, your intelligence, your ability. So those are the first 2 C's, character and competence. The second one is confidence. You don't want to sit there in the dental chair and they put in the x-rays and go, I don't know. You see that gray area there? I think you need a root canal. And you would run. So you want someone that's competent. So character, competence, confidence. And the fourth one, the most important we've talked about, is credibility. We can borrow credibility. We can teach them something new. And then the fourth one, or the fifth one we've talked about, is congruence. Subconscious triggers. Do your words match your actions? So if you're going to focus on one, credibility is always going to be most important. Borrow it. Teach them something new. Because it doesn't matter what influence tool I teach you, if they don't trust you, it's not going to help you. It's the glue to the whole process.
I like these, and my mind's scanning through each of them to see where I might be using these, where I'm not. This credibility thing, I had to do a resume yesterday for acting. Now, I haven't been doing much in the last 10 years in terms of acting, but I kept looking. I've done 200 podcast appearances. That's something, right? Threw that in. Did a short film 10 years ago. Put that in without the date. So I can see how we're using it all the time. Credibility. Yes, I've done what it takes. As a business, when we create a website, we show testimonials. We get someone to introduce us. So I love this. That's why I said I wanted to have you on the show, is because I believe personally that influence is so much. Trust is so important. Partly because if you do all of these, if you have character, competence, confidence, credibility, and congruence, I think you get to a 6th C that I'm very passionate about, which is connection. You have a true connection with the person. Kurt, how can people find out more about you if they want to maximize their influence?
Well, if you want to listen to the podcast, it's at maximizeyourinfluence.com. All the information is there. I'd encourage everyone to scroll to the bottom. There's a link there to take your Persuasion IQ to see where you rank. There's a few questions there that you answer to see how persuasive and influential you are. And for doing that, I'll give you a digital copy of my best-selling book, Maximum Influence, because it helps you with my research, as I've done over 10,000 of these around the world. maximizeyourinfluence.com.
Love it. So you heard it here, Focus Ninjas. Go to maximizeyourinfluence.com and take the Persuasion IQ test and get a copy of Kurt's best-selling book. Can't get better than that. Kurt, thanks so much for being on the show, man.
Hey, David, great having me. Thank you.
You've been listening to Extraordinary Focus with David Wood. Now, to achieve way more in less time, to double your business and your impact in the world, and to be an even more extraordinary entrepreneur and human, make sure you get your gift basket. It includes a cheat sheet to double your focus, a short video to implement the steps, and a free focus audit to identify the #1 focus leak in your business and how to plug it. To get all 3 of these goodies, just go to myfocusgift.com. If you've gotten value out of this episode, tell your friends. And nothing says keep up the good work, David, like a review, which helps us climb in the rankings and reach more listeners. Now, let's be extraordinary.